What's up, everybody? I am Baron Baptiste, and welcome to Disrupting the Drift. This is a show for disrupting the conspiracy for mediocrity in this modern society. I'm here with my good friend, David Masters. David, how are you doing?
Doing fantastic. Great to be here with you. Always, Baron. Always.
Yeah, good. Yeah, always good. And I like to say that this is a place where we can tell the truth and truth can be told, and disrupting the drift of thoughts, of thinking in order to bring a greater understanding, to bring love and the possibility of freedom in oneself, to live life true, to live your calling. But I think it's important to say we're not just disrupting the drift without purpose. Truth stands on its own, and truth for truth's sake is probably all we need. But I want to point to the intent here also is to bring understanding to oneself and to life, and to bring forward the possibility of living from a place of love. Make sure you subscribe to the show. We appreciate you sharing the show. If you get any kind of value, any kind of insight, we contribute to you in any kind of way. We grow the show by you sharing the show. So also send questions. We appreciate interacting with you. So if you send any questions to disruptingthedrift@baronbaptiste.com. Many of these podcast episodes are also posted to YouTube, Baron Baptiste YouTube, or Disrupting the Drift YouTube. Check us out there if you want the visual of what we're up to. David, we have a question, and I think it's an important question, a valuable question, given the state of the world. You and I were talking earlier about just how the world is right now. It seems like there's a lot of people living inside of a kind of pressure, whether it's a pressure cooker or external pressure, financial pressure, emotional pressure, a pressure to survive their circumstances. We were talking about that. And then this question that one of the questions that I was going through, what kinds of questions to address today on this episode. And there's a question about pressure. So I thought I'd bring that forward. You know, before I do that, I wanted to ask you something, David, and it's something that I have my own take on it, but it has to do with, and I want to let people in on how it goes for us. So David and I don't really plan these out at all. We don't prep. We don't plan. In fact, what I'll do is I'll bring the question forward today. We go, hey, we've got a question, or we've got a few different questions. Let's pick one or two or three to go after in an episode here. But David, this is what I want to ask you about, because I think it's interesting for me. I have my own take on it. I'd like to get your take, and I actually think it's got value for anybody listening. But you know how I'll bring a question forward, and then by default, I'll start talking about it, expanding on it, and you're like, yeah. But then you say, wait, you're very good, very disciplined about saying, wait, let's not talk about it anymore. Let's press record. Let's just bring it fresh in the moment, real time, real life. Why is that for you? Why is that you don't want to, prep it, talk through it? Yeah, what is that about?
Well, I think that once you get your intuitive hit, whatever it may be, and you talk about what you see, it sort of diminishes the rest of the conversation, because now you've said what you have to say. And what I want to do, and I've been in this business so long, I know that you want it to be fresh. You want it to come out spontaneously and authentically, so that people are hearing it for the first time. You're hearing it yourself for the first time, basically. Your own insight, the things that that occur to you in the conversation. Otherwise, it sounds, in my opinion, oftentimes it sounds rehearsed when you talk about it and you come back to it. And so that's the reason I like to do it right in the now, right in the moment.
Yeah. And do you think anything is lost in not preparing?
Never. And I've never done it.
Yeah.
I never do it.
Yeah.
I mean, you and I may have conversations, but it's not really like we're preparing for our conversation, because we don't know where it's going to go. Yeah. So anything can happen, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, so good.
Yeah.
Well, it's exactly why I ask, because I want, like, we don't prep these shows is what I want people to know.
Yeah.
And we have a question or a topic uh, usually that comes our way, and but we just, these are in the real time, in the moment, real conversation from the heart without planning. It's, it's something, as I learned as a teacher, facilitator of leading groups or giving talks on stages or in front of groups and rooms. I used to get all anxious about having to go give a talk and plan, kind of prepare the talk, even script it out or something. And then, but at a certain point, it was like, wait, who am I fooling here? Like, I'm fooling myself right there. And, if I can't be true to myself, then there's no way I can be true to anyone else. So I realize it at a certain point. Okay, I can have a topic or a theme of like an inquiry or something I want to share with people or speak to. But my point is, it's like, no, I need to just show up and talk from the heart. Maybe it's about that topic or about that principle or about a certain subject, but it gets created authentically in the moment, in real time, with real people, just like you and I here, real talk with you
Yeah.
and me, real people.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that has life, right? That has chemistry, that has gold, it has energy in it when you're authentic versus canned talk, pleather talk. There's leather and there's pleather. Now, pleather isn't bad or pleather isn't wrong. I mean, for some people it is, right?
Yeah.
But leather is a genuine article.
Yeah.
It's real. And so pleather is an imitation. And so, pleather, it's not that anything's wrong with it, but it's just not real.
Well,
So
there's something that occurs to me,
yeah,
and
yeah,
that is that I trust my intuition. Now, a lot of
yeah,
people don't because they are afraid of making fools of themselves. And honestly, I've done this for so long, and I've really spent most of my life meditating and practicing the presence and just being here now. I don't know what's going to happen to me from one moment to the next in my life. Life is constantly unfolding right in front of me, right in front of my
yeah,
eyes. And so when I want to have a conversation and I want it to be really from my heart, I trust that whatever is going to come from me is going to be shown to me at that moment. The Bible says something about don't worry about what you'll say for that moment, you'll be shown. I think that's
mm-hmm.
in Luke. And I've just practiced that, and I do trust my own ability to be given a message because I don't think that this is always going to be from me anyway. I don't necessarily know what I want to say, but it will be shown to me in a way, in an intuitive way. And the word intuition means knowing without reasoning. So if you have to sit there and try to figure it all out, and this is the other thing, I don't like people that do that. I don't like, and it's not that I don't like people, but I don't like presentations that are canned. When you
Yeah,
see somebody reading a presentation from a script, you're wondering to yourself, well, somebody wrote that for them most likely. Well, nobody writes our material for us. We have conversations that are real. So I don't care for those canned conversations personally.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Really good. Okay, here's the question. I have come to realize that I am addicted to pressure and can barely function without it. The more I need pressure to function, motivate, and without pressure of a deadline or some kind of consequence or penalty hanging over me, I just do not perform. I cannot get anything done without it, and I cannot prepare properly for anything in work or in life, and I know it is costing me. Do you have any advice on how I can be free of this syndrome?
It's a powerful question. Super
Yeah,
important. Yeah.
yeah. What do you see?
Well, sadly, most people spend their whole lives performing like trained monkeys for other people. And I'm sorry to say that, but most people are never really given a choice from the time that they're young. They're sort of molded, and then they have to meet the expectations of their parents and their teachers and their friends. And unfortunately, what it does, it robs you of an identity that you can only have when you allow the space to discover what you're really meant to be and who you're meant to be and what your real purpose in life is. And so, you get to a certain point where you've performed really well, and people that do perform, they get audiences, and they get people applauding for them, and they get people slapping them on the back, and they get people, giving the good old attaboy, doing a great job. But if you're addicted to that, there's also underneath that a true emptiness, and that's really sad to me. There's an emptiness in there. And now that you've come to this point where you've exhausted all of your ability to show people that you can do everything that you can do, and that you function because you want that recognition, but below that, there's a certain kind of unhappiness. And the unhappiness has to do with really not having found the true reason for your existence, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, something I see is our society has really become addicted to pressure. Truth is, most people can barely function without it. There's they need an external motivation, like this person in this question says, well, without some kind of consequence of meeting some kind of deadline, some kind of penalty, I can't motivate. I can't get things done. But I think the thing is, there's something that you are, I know in myself, pressure at a certain point in my life, it worked for me because I would put myself in environments and situations that I didn't know how to really function inside of. So I had this kind of pressure that I had to rise to the demand of the situation or the environment. And that was good for a little bit, but I realized that that's a reactive way of living, which then, if you're not careful, you become a puppet to something else, to some external force, external authority. And then you're suddenly mechanical, trying to get people, to like you. You're managing perception. So why would you show up under pressure rather than just from a natural momentum, a natural flow? Is because of to me, the place to check would be because there is, well, where are you coming from? Where are you coming from? And what is pulling you? And if it's a need for people to, a need to look good or not look stupid, or you've just got, David, this is what I want to say about this. Because as I'm speaking, I'm like, there's some point, but I'll tell you, it's success, I think, for a lot of people. It's like the kind of success that's external, that's designed for getting external approval. So, I want to have the cars, or I want to have the houses, or I want to have the look of success. So I'm doing things from a place of a deep void. You said this earlier, a deep void, an emptiness, to me, it often fits in this kind of success model. But if you keep operating out of that place, you may get things done, some things done, but they're done half-heartedly. And when I say half-heartedly, it's literally because only half of your heart is even there, if any of it. It's more from the head. But I know that whatever you get out of functioning out of pressure and under pressure ends up being an empty package. It's an empty package. It's not fulfilling. And I know in my own world, in a journey, I have to follow what the calling of my conscience. And that is different because, and here's the thing here is, I don't have to prepare, but I'm also don't to show up to give a talk or to share up for a conversation like this or the podcast like this. I don't necessarily have to prepare unless if I wanted to. So I don't prepare, but it's come from my heart. Like, okay, I'm just going to have a real talk, a real conversation here with my friend David. But it's not like I could have this guilt also whispering in the background, doubt, well, you should be preparing. Almost like I have to manufacture a kind of pressure to feel alive, to get some kind of my inner pharmacy activated for some kind of, get the creature somehow stressed enough to feel like I'm doing something I should be doing. David, do you think there's something about pressure being imposed on people from a very young age, whether it's school or their mother or their father, or being pressured so that even when you actually don't need it, like I that's what I want to say. I know I would start showing up in life and I'm just going to be real and speak authentically, genuine in the moment. But I have this weird little guilt in the background, like, hey, you didn't prepare properly. Hey, you didn't. And I'm like, what's that weird pressure in the
I'll tell you what
background?
it is.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
programming. It no, really
yeah,
seriously, we are all
yeah,
programmed, and from the time that we're little, we're programmed to perform. As we've been talking about this, but I don't think people realize how deep it is.
yeah.
And so the ones that are recognized for performing are the ones that get the gold stars. In the
Mm-hmm.
beginning, you get awarded, you get recognized, but the recognition is to drive the programming deeper, to make you in a way sort of a Manchurian candidate. And the ones who are the best at conforming to the programming are the ones that rise through the ranks of those who program them. And then they end up trying to go back into the world in which they become either leaders of programming or people who are performing under programming. And so let me tell you this. I know exactly what you're talking about, that guilt, that little guilty feeling in the back of your head that tells you should have prepared. You shouldn't leave things to chance. Well, let me tell you something. I got to that point in my life many years ago, and there were three words that came up. And those three words were, I don't care. But it wasn't that I didn't care about becoming somebody or doing something great with my life. I just didn't care about all the guilt trips that were being laid on me. I didn't care about comparing myself to everybody else that was doing something and me looking at myself and saying, well, how come I'm not like them? I didn't care about really competing at that level because I knew that there was something for me that only I could discover on my own. And that's the journey that I took. I took an intuitive journey into the world to figure out who I am. And sadly, the people that live out of their programming they end up empty because they've given their whole life to an ideal that was installed in them by a programmer, by somebody that told them what they should be thinking and doing and feeling and seeing. And you can't live your life happily that way. You just can't. And so it's a good thing that you get to a place where you're saying, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? Is there a way out of this feeling that, not being able to perform unless you are under that kind of terrible pressure? Well, pressure isn't necessarily what you think it is either, because pressure is actually a choice that you're making about continuing to do the same thing over and over again, expecting a different outcome, which never happens, by the way, or saying, okay, I'm done with this. I am actually going to walk away from all my programming and I'm going to start living my life authentically, one moment, one day at a time. And when that
Mm-hmm.
happens, now you got a different kind of conflict that comes up. You've got different kinds of anxiety, but that's the kind of anxiety that's real. That's real life anxiety that you say, what am I going to do now? And now you start to look, and now you start to search your soul. You do that soul searching that you have to do, and you find what you love. And this is what you started talking about, Baron,
Yeah,
coming to it from love.
yeah, yeah. Very good. Yeah, because unfortunately, thriving under pressure in work or in life or in a relationship, it becomes a place for security in a sense, like a kind of comfort zone, and you lose yourself in the security of the pressure. It makes you, there's
Mm-hmm.
something about pressure it's like a drug. There's something, a sick kind of comfort about it.
Well, it
Like,
automates you. It automates you.
yeah,
You get up, you
yeah.
do everything. You never change not one thing do you ever change about your life. You don't change one little piece of any habit. You just get up every day and you just go through the motions. It's sad.
Well, and then you become whatever it is you're doing under
Yeah.
pressure. It becomes, it's not something you're just doing. You become it, whatever
Yeah.
it is. It
Yeah.
becomes you. And it literally feels like whatever happens to it, let's say it's something in your business, it happens to you. So you take everything personally because there's no separation between it and you, a situation in your job or in work, or something goes awry, or, when people operate under pressure, your work will upset you or excite you, depending on the day and what's happening. But if you're addicted to the pressure, and I'm speaking from my own experience, when I'd be a time where I was addicted to pressure, I would become my work. Like, you become your work, you are your work, you're lost in it, you're fixated, you're like in a hypnotic spell. You're loving it and hating it, but it's like an addiction. In order to function, you need it to be the intensity of it. And without it, you don't know who you are. Most pressure addicted people cannot think outside of what they do, nor can they go beyond what they've learned, even, often traumatically. It's almost like the frog in boiling water, the pressure of boiling water. You put a frog in a pot of cold water, and you bring it to a slow heat and slow boil, it'll cook to death. If you put the frog in a pot of boiling water, it jumps out. But how many people, I know, if I look back at my life, I was like, wow, I was living in a pressure cooker. If I would have jumped in cold into that pressure cooker, it would have been like a snowflake in a furnace. But I was so almost traumatically, it was normal. It had been normalized, but I also didn't know how to function without it. And then you also develop you become a pressure monger towards others, but you also find yourself surrounded with people and environments that pressure you. Does that make sense? Like,
yeah. Because a part of this equation that has to be discussed is a fear of failure, and because fear and pressure. See, there's two kinds of modes that you can be in: reward and punishment. So what do we prefer? Well, we prefer reward. Punishment, though, can be internal. It can be as much as something that's very quiet, only you know about, and it could be self-judgment. And you could be looking at yourself every day thinking, wondering, what do people see about me? How are they watching me today? Am I measuring up? Am I doing what I can do to help everybody else? But the reward part of it is the part that we focus on, because the fear of failure is so frightening to the average person, because, as you said, you become what pressures you. And then when you stop being that, then what are you? See, you're not the person that you came into this world to potentially be. You're just you're the effect of some kind of cause. And then when you begin to malfunction, and this is what causes a lot of dis-ease, because people, they pour their life force out into everything that they do because they don't want to fail. And the whole idea of failure is kind of an imposter anyway, but failing is not an option for a lot of people, because their whole life is built upon these little moments where they think that they have to do what they're doing, that they don't really have a choice. And the fact is that you do have a choice. And the choice is that you can say, as I did, and I'm not telling you to do this, but I'm saying, when you say, the first time you say, I don't care, and you mean it, is the beginning of you being able to be yourself. Because there's a point in time at which you have to know that you don't have to perform the way you're doing. You can start to change it right away. You can start to modify it a little bit at a time. You don't have to just walk away from it and drop it altogether, but you could. But the point is, being your authentic self is the most difficult thing you're ever going to do in your life. And you have to realize that pressure is also an imposter, because you need pressure. And if it isn't there, you create it for yourself.
Yeah, no, very good. If you're addicted to pressure, you become your own pressure monger. You hold this pressure over yourself. I know I certainly did. But then you also become the pressure monger to others.
Yes.
Imposing, pressure on others to perform or get things done the way in not a natural time. You become a grace robber, but it's you've robbed yourself of grace. Something I had to learn was that letting go and seeking truth was the only way out. And when I say seeking truth as a way out of being addicted and just at the effect of pressure, is and operating under pressure, seeking the truth is being authentic. Like you point out, being authentic is difficult, but being authentic is a path of truth, because you have to tell the truth on yourself, tell the truth about being addicted. I had to tell the truth, like, Baron, you are addicted to pressure. You can't function without it. Like, look, you can't get off the couch without some kind of pressure, some kind of external, like the questioner brought up, the some kind of external motivation or consequence. I needed something external. I wasn't flowing from within myself, but authenticity is the pathway to freedom. So when I say letting go and seeking truth was the only way out, well, it's telling the seeing the truth, having an appetite, a hunger, a thirst for the truth and the way out, yearning for freedom, and through authenticity, telling the truth and then letting go. When you see in the moment, in real time, in real situations, real interactions with yourself, with people, with others, with situations, in the moment that you see yourself giving into pressure or related to pressure, in that moment, you let that go, you step in front of it, and you be about the truth. No, truth is, I'm going to be real here. I'm going to show up real. Authenticity is an access to freedom. It's a pathway to freedom. It's a gateway to freedom. And freedom from what? In this case, the pressure that is ruining your joy. It's pouring salt, on any kind of just natural joy and the vitality to flow freely in life. But the journey for me was seeking the truth, acknowledging the truth, being authentic about it, being authentic about where I'm not, including being authentic with others. Like, hey, I'm not showing up here in a real way because I'm stressed out and full of anxiousness and anxiety, and not because of, I've got all this pressure about this thing or this situation or this project or this presentation. And so just start telling the truth on yourself is a big one, I see, as a way out.
I had a friend who ran a prominent ad agency. And you talk about pressure. Talking about building ads for Nissan and Lexus and all these big car brands. And there was a point in time at which she was being so overwhelmed that she felt like life wasn't even worth living. And what she did was she started beekeeping. And this is just, to me, such an interesting example, because getting close to that part of the world, of that part of nature, it sort of began to free her from her preoccupation with trying to make the ad deadlines and the money and the budgets and all the rest of it. And eventually she left her business and she just went into beekeeping full time. And so pressure has to do with one thing, and it defines who you are, right? And it also defines who you are not. Now, at a certain point, if you believe that using pressure to achieve your goals is what's important, well, the pressure is then going to shape you and form you and mold you into something that is used by pressure. You're going to be just an extension of a pressure source. But at a certain point, when you realize that there's more to your life than just being the extension of a pressure source, then you're going to start to wonder what really matters. And this is what I wanted to say. Make a choice between what's really important and what's not. Mm-hmm. And that starts to redefine your reality. What's really important? Are you happy with the life you're living? If you're not, then know that. And then ask yourself, well, what is really important? What do I really want out of this life? Do I want to just be an extension of a pressure source? Do I want to just be on automatic pilot all the time? Moving like Tarzan through the jungle, one vine after another, and each vine is just a pressure vine, and you're swinging until you miss the vine, and then you're gone. Or do you want to live a life that means something and has some significance to you? That's the question.
Yeah, very good. At a certain point, I saw how pressure was running my life, running my energy, which was basically my life force was cut off. My flow was cut off. I was stressed. I was overwhelmed. I got to a point where I was like, dear God, like just in prayer, just my soul calling out, God, I want ease. Show me the way to ease and simplicity. And I'll tell you what I saw. Eventually, I saw that the less I needed pressure to motivate and function, the less I needed. The less I needed to just get things done, the less I needed to prepare for something. And the less I needed to prepare, meaning if I saw, okay, I was going to give a talk or go and lead some training and development course or program, there's some preparation to do there, but it was simple. It was easeful. It was joyful. It was a creative act. But I didn't need a lot. I had what I needed to just kind of gather my thoughts, put things in order. The blanket of overwhelm and pressure began to lift. And I saw as the less I needed, as I gave things up that I thought I needed pressure actually. And the more I gave that up, the more it gave me up. It just, I could let it be there. Okay, I could feel pressure in the background knocking on my door, knocking on my head. And I was like, but the more I just let it be, it would let me be. And I got to more freedom and ease. And as this transformation became real for me, just that old pressure pattern or that old pattern to need pressure and deal with pressure was replaced with just a whole new way of being, acting, new way of generating and creating in life, and from my creator. So, but David, this is what I want to say. I think there's something that you need to be a seeker to have this kind of transformation. I know fundamentally, like, I learn from my flaws. I learn from my weaknesses. I see that it's on me. I'm responsible. Like at the end of the day, life is a full-length mirror. And if I don't like pressure, then it's on me to start taking responsibility for that. But the only way to really do that is to be a seeker of truth and freedom, and to have a relationship with your creator, your higher power, the author of the universe, the author of you, that allows you to give up these old identities. Because to me, someone who's addicted to pressure, like the questioner here, the person who said in the question, I feel you, because I certainly had been in that. But I think the more you're addicted to pressure, the more you don't have yourself. It's coming back to yourself.
Well, and
Yeah.
let's just, one more component of this is that emotion is the mother of addiction. So what kind of emotions are attached to that feeling of pressure that
Yeah.
you need to function from, right? What kind of emotion? And I say it goes back to fear. And there's a great line in a movie called After Earth. And I don't care about the movie, but the statement is powerful. Danger is real, but fear is a choice. So let me modify that. Pressure is real, but giving in is a choice. And all you have to do is say, what, I'm not going to do this. It doesn't matter. Again, if you are worried about your house of cards falling down, well, it's going to fall down anyway, eventually. And if you're going to worry about what's going to happen every time you say, wait a minute, I'm going to step back for a minute, you're never going to step back. So pressure is real, but giving in is a choice. Don't give in. Don't give into it. Just step back and stay back for a while and see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. It's giving up, to give up, because to see the impact that pressure has on us, that has on you, you see that you're either attaching to things all of the time, to things, to relationships, to situations. You're either attaching yourself or you're trying to escape them. It's like front and back of the hand, attaching or trying to escape. But it's like meditation, right? You become distant, you become the witness, you start to observe truth. And as you become more distant from things, you can stand in the face of pressure and whatever makes up all the things that make up all the pressure, the people, the places, the things, the situations that make up pressure. The more you can stand in the face of pressure and stress without being possessed by it, is given by your ability to be distant from it. And distant, not like you're disconnected or checked out, but as you become distant in the objective sense, like awareness. You have awareness, the awareness that gives a natural objective distance. I think you actually are more connected, not less. So becoming distant in the awareness sense, aware of things, you can stand in the face of anything, any kind of pressure, any kind of stress, trial, travail, without being possessed by it. You can have things without things having you. But as an addict to pressure, I know, like, inevitably I would become an escape artist. I'd have to lose myself to as a way of avoiding the pressure, disconnecting, releasing the pressure. You have to release that pressure. So, and you have to release it by something, some kind of, shopping, drinking, smoking, sexing, eating, vacationing, losing yourself on TV, on Netflix or whatever. And that's the cycle. Then you're back in it and you're absorbing a sense of identity by being addicted to the pressure, and then the pressure builds up and the stress, the overwhelm, and then get me out of here. I need to go escape and release the pressure gauge into some kind of escapism, anesthetizing, numbing out, checking out. But the need for pressure or to work under pressure can cause us to attach ourselves to people, places, and things, but those things can never fulfill us and inevitably leave us exhausted, spent, and used up and bitter. And then we need to find a way to recover. So we change jobs, we change relationships, we change cities, we change countries. But inevitably it follows us until we confront this. So confronting our addiction to pressure, we either confront it or we're in this dance of attaching and escaping.
So I give you just a simple example of how to deal with it. Let's say you're at dinner and somebody orders you a plate of plastic food, and they put it in front of you and they say, "Go ahead, look at this. It looks delicious, doesn't it?" You say, "No, no, it's plastic." And they say to you, "No, please, just go ahead and try it." You say, "No, I'm not going to eat the plastic food." But see, when you are confronted with an actual choice about what you want or don't want, do you think that you're going to allow somebody to get you to taste the plastic food? Now, if you give in, you're placating. You're going, "All right, fine. You know what? To get you off my back, I'm going to taste the plastic food. Yuck, it's plastic." So it really is a matter of this. You either want or you don't want something. And if you don't want it, you don't have to have it. You don't have to do it. But on the other side, if you have conflict about it, maybe you want it. Maybe you want something that you know is not really any good, but you still want it anyway. And the nature of addiction is the emotions that's below it. You're afraid of who you might or might not be without it. And you have to confront that. If you want to be free and function as an authentic and an autonomous person, you have to face the fact that you may want the pressure, you may need the pressure, you may not know how to be who you are without it. And then the question is, well, do you want to find out? Do you want to find out what it's like to live your life without feeling that pressure? Why do you think people go on vacations? They go on vacations because they want to get away from everything. And sometimes now people they leave their phone at home so they don't have to answer their phone and have their text messages and all their social media. Do you want it or do you not want it? And are you afraid to find out who you are without it? Because you know what? There's a whole different life waiting for you, but you'll never know what that is until you confront that one question. Do you want and need pressure or do you not? And if you don't want it or need it, then stop right now. Again, just step back for a bit.
I like how you talk about vacation, and I've got the ocean and the beach and the wind blowing on my back.
Nice.
But I'm at home here. So it feels like vacation, and it's finding harmony in nature, I think, is also an important thing. I was doing yoga practice. I get my yoga mat out every morning. if you're watching, you might be able to see. There it is, right there behind me. It's still out there. But I get on my yoga mat every morning, and I spend about an hour going through a yoga practice. I sit and meditate outdoor, just outside. I like to do that often, just sit outside. But there's something about getting present to. I was thinking about when I get on my yoga mat and I'm out in nature. To me, it's similar to taking a walk. Like I also will go and take a walk on the beach. I'll do that later this afternoon. I get in the water, go surfing, getting in nature. But here's what I want to distinguish. So there's something about getting outside, getting in nature, getting in the elements, getting some sunshine, some vitamin D, in your eyes and your skin, getting fresh air, and just we are made up of water, right? We're made up of earth, water, metal. We are made of air, space. We're made up of the elements. So there's something about that. But then there's meditation that I want to point to. And meditation's different for me than all the rest of it, the exercise and the yoga practice and getting in the elements and getting in water and air. It's all that's important. But meditation is a different quality to me because it's where I can submit myself to my creator, to a power greater than my identity, my puny little I, lowercase I, self. No matter how important I may think I am, I know when I sit and meditate, I get present to the presence of my creator and conscience, that voice of the still place of truth within myself. And even if I just touch that, tap that for a second, a nanosecond, it's a revelation of awe, like awness, some kind of awe that I'm present to something greater, the universe, the sky above, the earth below, my heart beating, and I'm present to my puniness in a sense. But it's a kind of humility that I invite everybody to take on, because it's in that humility, that experience and that space of humility to just in awness, awesomeness, not some awe actually, because I'm not talking about some awe. I'm talking about awful, the experience of full of awe at wow, this life we have, this life we are in, this body, this experience, a human being, a human, what is that saying? A human having a spiritual, a human being having some kind of experience of life, and I'm a part of something so much greater, and it's a gift, it's a possibility, it's way beyond anything I could understand. But in that humility, there's all this release and relief of pressure. Like, I don't have to be the center of the universe. I don't have to play God. I don't have to be judge, jury, and executioner of myself, of my past, of my regrets, of all the things I didn't do right or should have done differently or shouldn't have done it all, or the worry of the future. Like, I can just relinquish all that, submit myself through meditation to something greater, and be still and know that there's God and I'm not it, but I'm a part of it. I'm connected to it, something greater. And I want to partly wrap up. I want to hear if you have anything final to say, but I wanted to wrap up where, I think that the antidote to pressure may be found in total humility. Like, you're going to have to give up all of your opinions, like all of them. You're going to have to give up all of your judgments. You're going to have to give up all of your knowingness and trying to get it right, and all the regrets and all the resentments and all the blame, and just take full on responsibility for all of it. And I think the only way to do that is to come to the bottom, down to zero in humility. David, anything you want to say to wrap up?
Yeah, just this one idea that pressure is an imposter. And you don't have to have a communication with it. You don't have to have a relationship with it. You think you do, but you don't. And when you realize that pressure is, haven't you ever heard people say, "Oh, I'm so under so much pressure right now," and then when you ask them what they're actually doing, well, what they're under pressure is not like for you. It's like, wow, I wish I could trade places with you because that's easy. So it's all relative. It's all relative in the sense that one person's pressure is another person's play. As
Yeah.
a surfer, man, we like to go out and get in the waves, and some people go, "Oh, that's terrible. I couldn't do that." So remember,
Yeah.
it's an imposter.
Yeah. Yeah. Very good. Very good. Awesome. Everybody, thank you for listening. Thank you, David. Please share the show. We appreciate it if you share the show. Also, check us out on YouTube at Baron Baptiste, Disrupting the Drift. All right, y'all. Thank you. Peace out. Stay blessed.